Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas from the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, and a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. And a big welcome in to our friends over on 99.7 The Drive right here in the Vegas Valley. Also, Highway Country. A big hello to you as well as The Drive itself. Hey, listen, folks, we have lots of friends here in Las Vegas and around the area. And make sure, whatever you do, you get out a chance and support some of our friends out there, the Vibe right here in Las Vegas, 99.7 FM, and of course, the Drive. That's the Highway Drive, 96.9 FM, 94.9 FM, and also Highway Country, and that, of course, is 107.3 FM and 101.5 FM. It's Arizona, California, and Nevada. All right. Round of applause for our friends over there. All right, and thanks for tuning in. Everybody also on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates, plus independents from coast to coast, Hotel TV, where applicable. And, of course, everybody has streaming platforms as well as Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. You know, thinking about what's going on in the NFL, and you ask yourself, all right, look, there was this problem, as you know, with Deshaun Watson. And then, not too terribly long after, it is Ravens release kicker Justin Tucker after 13 seasons as the NFL investigates allegations of improper conduct. That's right, improper conduct. Don't even know what to say about that one besides that's not good because, first of all, we as the audience, we don't even know what their definition of improper conduct is. But what we do know is, let's face it, improper conduct, apparently, as the common world knows it, is not good in the first place. So, and this is from the NFL.com. Of course, they say the Ravens released veteran kicker Justin Tucker, who currently is the subject of an NFL investigation into allegations of improper conduct during massage therapy sessions. Oh boy, another one. And that whole massage therapy chaos and controversy, I suppose. So Tucker had been with the Ravens since 2012. The guy's been there a dozen years. And Baltimore general manager Eric DeCosta described the release as a, quote, football decision, close quote. And then he continues on by saying, quote, sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this was one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made a tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin creates many significant and unforgettable moments in Raven history, and of course, his reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers over a decade. Actually, folks, it's been a hell of a lot longer than that. And of course, they continue on with, we are grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in this next chapter of his life. close quote. That was by the GM. Now, a total of 16 massage therapists from 8 Baltimore area spas have accused Justin Tucker of improper conduct. They've all said Tucker's actions occurred between 2012 rookie year and 2016. The Baltimore Banner first reported the allegations of inappropriate behavior in an article published back in January. And of course, Tucker has denied any misconduct whatsoever. And Tucker, who was signed with the Ravens as an undrafted free agent way back out of Texas in 2012, is the most accurate kicker in NFL history with an 89.1% career field goal percentage and 7 Pro Bowl selections. Tucker also holds the league record for the longest made field goal at 66 yards and won Super Bowl 57 with the Raiders. And so you ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, is this really happening? Is this a conspiracy? Did it happen? I mean, look, you look at this guy, you say, all right, so the 5-time first-team All-Pro selection. All-Pro is a big deal, folks, not Pro Bowl. All-Pro means you're recognized by your peers and the coaches. That selection, of course, is coming off his worst season as a pro, in which he recorded a record low or a career low in field goals made at 22 and field goal percentage of 73.3%. And the Ravens drafted Tucker's potential replacement last month when they selected Arizona's Tyler Loop in the 6th round, making him the first kicker selected in the draft in franchise history. So what I want to know is 16 massage therapists from 8 Baltimore area spas accused Tucker of improper conduct, and they said it occurred, or these actions occurred, between 2012, his rookie year, and 2016. I have to wonder, and this is just me, folks, you can say that I'm off my rocker. You could say that you could say that I'm crazy. The reality is we have an enormous time gap. So let's just say these things occurred, these alleged improper conduct actions by Justin Tucker occurred between 2012 and 16. So you're talking 2012, over a dozen years ago. Over a dozen. And at worst, 2016, 8 years ago. I would love to know, please, somebody chime in at any time. Email me, info@thesportscircus.com. I don't care. I'm curious as to why it would take somebody a minimum of 8 years to report improper, well, as they say, improper conduct. Why does it take 8 years to report this? I mean, I don't even understand it. I don't get it. Somebody needs to tell me. They say, well, there was the fear of somebody might not believe me or some nonsense like that. Well, when things happen, you're supposed to say something. Like they say when you're on the train or whatever, if you see something, say something. And I did that with a security guard today at one of the local casinos. I saw some strange characters, and I reported them immediately. And so what was it that made these people wait a minimum of 8 years and take all the way up to 12 years? Is it come one, come all? I'm sorry. Well, the Me Too thing, go ahead and include me. I would like to know, because as far as I see it, if somebody had inappropriate actions or inappropriate conduct, according to NFL.com, that means somebody either said, all right, I'm going to let this thing cool down, but does it take that long to cool down? I don't know. I've never been in that situation that I certainly care to speak of. And so as I look at it, I say, all right, something stinks in Happyville here, because it has taken a minimum of 8 years. Now, if it just occurred maybe even a year, year and a half, 2 years ago, I suppose. But we think of, I don't know, man. I think of the idea of statute of limitations, and apparently there are no statute of limitations in this. So you could say somebody did something 50 years ago, and apparently, well, you're just going to go ahead and bring action towards them now. Right? Oh, yeah, he did it to me too, or she did it to me too, or whatever the hell it is, he, she, whatever. The reality is they got together in a group and said, you know what? Let's see what we could, I wouldn't say squeeze out of this guy because I don't know. I wasn't there. But because I don't want to be accused of being insensitive. But why the hell does it take so long to report the alleged improper conduct? This is what I have a problem with. And so, look, again, you could say whatever you want about my opinion. It's just that. All I know is if this happened as they claim it did, don't you think as the listening audience that it shouldn't take a minimum of 8 years to report this? That's my question. And I'm sure that some of you have a similar question. Or is it that Justin Tucker is a man of convenience? Maybe as a Caucasian man, because they had an African-American man as the first one with Deshaun Watson. Is it a balancing act? Is it retaliation? What is it? I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there, folks. Who knows? Is it a racial thing? Is it a AFC East thing? Or is it the North or whatever the hell it is? Is it an AFC thing? Right? Because remember, we had the thing with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, of course, where is he? He's with the Cleveland Browns still somehow. I don't know. What is it? Somebody please chime in on this one because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why it would take so long to report these alleged improper conduct. I'm sorry, but I smell BS in this one, and I'm going to say, in my opinion, the whole thing is a steaming pile of BS. That's right, folks. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it, and I'm entitled to it. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus with more football nonsense. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners. You and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on credit worthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your credit worthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out again at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates and our friends, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome to everybody up and down the West Coast, including our friends over driving on their way to either Las Vegas or Phoenix on the Vibe 99.1 FM. Of course, that is probably the number one dance music station right here in Las Vegas. And I got to tell you, folks, I listen to that one all the time myself. And, of course, the Highway Drive at 96.9 FM and 94.9 FM. Also, on your way to Arizona, don't forget our friends, even from California to Las Vegas, on Highway Country as well. A nice round of applause for them on 107.3 FM and 101.5 FM. All right. Big a little our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, as well as our friends over in Auburn, Alabama. That's 1230 on the AM dial. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. And plus everybody else at all of our cable and television affiliates. And we're going to stop right there and get right back into the National Football League. And, you know, these draft grades, this is the one thing that really cracks me up. Well, you know, this team did this and they did that. And we're going to give them a grade of this. Look, these players, first of all, haven't played one snap of professional football. But yet, here's an interesting thing. They had this discussion earlier with a couple of friends, and they were saying, well, you know, what do you think about this NIL thing and all this other crap? And, well, I said, look, first of all, these players, because they're just players at this point, are they really amateurs or not? Well, last time I checked, if you're paid to do something, you have lost your amateur standing, and now you are a professional. So really, these alleged college players, as I see it, they are now paid professionals. And so the reality is they haven't played a snap of National Football League football, yet these clowns are giving them these alleged grades. And I love this one. This one's by Gennaro Felice, Deputy Editor of Written Content at NFL.com. And he says, a couple of days before the 2025 NFL Draft, New York Magazine published a will-liked take with a straightforward headline. The NFL Draft is actually boring as hell. Going on to say, I'm not spotlighting this to complain about someone yucking my yum, whatever the hell that means. Anyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I've been a fan of Like's work since he founded Deadspin 2 decades ago. And honestly, reading this piece, I felt seen. The basic premise was, who wants to spend their free time watching a sporting event devoid of actual sporting competition? Apparently, me, he says. And that me, of course, is the editor-in-chief, or the editor, of Written Content at Deputy Editor, Gennaro Felice at NFL.com. And I'm going to single him out because this is just his opinion, not mine. I'll throw mine in when I can. Anyway, he goes on to say, but the more pertinent question is, who wants to spend their free time reading grades for a sporting event devoid of actual sporting competition. Hopefully, you. And of course, for that one, we'll give an astounding amount of boos. That's right. So without further ado, he says, here's my 10,000-word report card on last week's proceedings covering general thoughts on each team's draft haul, my personal favorite picks, and 32 sleepers selected on day 3 of the annual Prospect Gala. Enjoy this guy. All right, so moving on. Starting at number 32, at the bottom in the form, I guess, of David Letterman's with his 1 to 10 kind of thing. He says the Minnesota Vikings get a grade of C-, making just 5 selections in the entire draft, tied for the fewest. With only 1 in the top 100, Minnesota was destined to land in this spot. But even with such limited draft currency, it was pretty shocking that the Vikings didn't come away with a single defensive back. So look, if they didn't, that means they've got enough. Minnesota already had a pretty good defense. Do they need to pick up a defensive back is the bigger question. So mind you, here you take this guy, and his name, of course, Gennario Felice. So let's do a quick little search on Gennario Felice, and let's find out if he has played any time at all in professional football. Because the last time I checked, I don't seem to recall that. So let's find out. We'll go Gennaro, Gennaro, Filice, and we'll put, how about Wikipedia? Because that normally gives some kind of a background. It's not a scholarly journal, but what it does is at least gives some kind of background. Right, so here is, all right, we've got on X, no, it just says NFL, editor, connoisseur of fine hot sauces. Yeah, fine hot sauces. Drinker of top fermented beers. This is the guy that's allegedly giving this. Fan of winged helmets. All right, what does that tell you? All right, up and down this, I got to tell you, I don't see anything that says any experience in the National Football League, yet this guy is giving his information, his thoughts, and he's never played the damn game as I've seen. Mind you, he's giving out grades from his lack of experience in the National Football League. And then here's the pick. His favorite pick, Donovan Jackson, offensive guard. Who gives a damn? Bro, you haven't played football last time I checked unless I'm missing something here. And so why is his information relevant? And then he says, well, I've got a sleeper here. It is Tyron Ingram Dawkins, defensive line, a former 5-star recruit and all this other crap. Great, he could read the brochure. And that's really what this is. All right, moving on. Number 34, he gives the Bengals a minus or a C-. And they had a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks. And last time I checked, it was the Bengals that picked up the defensive end in Shamar Stewart, a pretty good candidate right there in the 1st round. In round 2 was Demetrius Knight Jr., a good linebacker, someone to clog up the middle. On the offensive side, offensive guard, Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. Pretty solid pick as I see it. In round number 4, another linebacker to go along with Demetrius Knight, and that's Barrett Carter out of Clemson. Big bodies, folks. Round number 5, another offensive lineman. This one's an offensive tackle, Jalen Rivers out of Miami. He was down there protecting Cam Ward, and he's a pretty good one. And even in 6th round, Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech as a running back. C-, my ass. I don't think that this guy knows what he's talking about because it was the Bengals that actually got themselves at least, I guess, a B in this particular genre, I should say. I mean, it's maddening to imagine that clowns like this are actually giving grades out. And he goes on to say, well, 2 years ago, the Bengals used a 1st-round pick on a raw size of traits defensive end in Miles Murphy. Still waiting for that pick to click. Who cares, dude? Your favorite pick is Dylan Fairchild, offensive guard. Nobody cares what you say. The reality is the Bengals actually did a hell of a lot better than that alleged C-. And here he has the New Orleans Saints at a grade of C, who actually got an extra pick in the grand scheme of things. And they have offensive tackle, a good quarterback as round 2, a defensive lineman, safety, linebacker, corner, running back, tight end, defensive end. So actually it was the Saints that cleared up or loaded up on all positions. They didn't load up on one. He has his favorite picks and all this other garbage. The grade of C went to the Atlanta Falcons, where I guess I'm a little confused with their picks anyway. But they've got two defensive ends, one out of Georgia, one out of Tennessee. They got two SEC guys, and I'm not so sure that that was the best pick. But then again, it doesn't matter what I think. It's this guy with his nonsensical picks. And so in his nonsensical grades, that is really what I'm after. And then he says, the Falcons just can't do things normally, can they? Last year, Arthur Blank gave his front office an ultimatum to figure out the quarterback position. Atlanta proceeded to sign Kirk Cousins to a 9-figure deal and then shock everyone by drafting Michael Penix Jr. Well, it's obvious why they drafted Michael Penix Jr. is to play behind and learn behind Kirk Cousins. But yes, they did give him a short leash, which really didn't seem like the smart thing to do. But the point is, Penix was supposed to learn from Kirk Cousins. So that was the method to the madness. Now, this guy's talking out of his elbow. He doesn't have any idea what the hell he's saying. And then he gives the Rams a grade of C, who they had no first-round picks, and they had no sixth-round, but they had 2 fifth-rounds. And they got a tight end, defensive end, running back, defensive tackle, linebacker, and wide receiver. So they sent a message on defense. We're looking for some big bodies. They got 3 defensive players, a big body at tight end, and they got themselves a pretty good wide receiver out of Pitt. And so they got a C, apparently, being from this guy, Felice. So in any event, folks, when we come back from break, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and pick up from the Indianapolis Colts. And by the way, we'll just cover that real quick. They got themselves a pick in every round and a double in round 6, being a tight end, a good tight end out of Penn State, a very good one, probably the best one in the draft, a defensive end out of Ohio State, a cornerback out of Minnesota, an offensive tackle from Iowa State, a big boy in Jalen Travis, running back DJ Giddens out of K-State, quarterback Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, defensive tackle Tim Smith out of Alabama, and linebacker Hunter Wooler out of Wisconsin. I think they did a hell of a lot better than a C+. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Don't go anywhere. More football chaos coming up. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, all streaming platforms that are not included there. Plus, of course, social media as well, including our friends over on Facebook. A big hello to everybody that's listening in on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check that out. It's a fun group on Facebook. It's free. There's all kinds of opportunity to talk about your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes, and your favorite foods as well. Have some fun with it. And it's essentially, we have about 23 members in the group, and they're from all corners of the earth for all you flat earthers out there. All right. And a big welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. You know who you are. All right. Picking up with this nonsensical NFL.com, I guess it's just some kind of a ridiculous article by somebody named Gennaro Felice. Last time I checked, he is the deputy editor of written content. Last I checked, this guy never played professional football, college football, any kind of football, and yet he's giving his grades that, in my opinion, is sort of an embarrassment to NFL.com, and I think even to himself. I just don't even know why he would do such a thing as to open his mouth about these picks, but I'm going to single him out because I can. And so he's tearing up teams. Well, you know, this team got this grade, that grade, whatever. Mind you, these players never did what? They never played a snap of football in the National Football League in the first place. How the hell can you give a grade based off of non-performance in the first place? Think about that, folks. So let's continue on with this. We left off, of course, with the Atlanta Falcons. We went through the LA Rams, and then we also went through the Indianapolis Colts, and we left off right here on the Miami Dolphins, who had a first, a second, a fifth, a sixth, a 7-7. So the Dolphins, kind of an interesting draft model because they had some picks and this, that, and the other. Everybody told the Dolphins how soft they were last season, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, the Dolphins GM was kind of just getting started. And so as they used the next two picks on a pair of pretty good trench warriors, allegedly, in Jonah and Jordan, right, offensive lineman and defensive tackle. So without further ado with that, first round, they got themselves another defensive tackle in Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Pretty solid pick. Then they got a guard, an offensive guard in round number 2, a big boy. Looks like a big Samoan boy or something of the Pacific Islander group. Now, in the 5th round, they had 3 picks. They got a defensive tackle, cornerback, and safety. So they addressed the defense right there. And sometimes you don't have to go into the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, whatever, to pick yourself up some good defensive players. Round 6, they got a running back out of Oak State in Ollie Gordon II, pretty solid pick. And Quinn Ewers out of Texas, which I think is a solid pick. They got him in the 7th round. That's right. Hell, I would have taken him before Sanders, in my opinion. I think that would have been the better pick, but it doesn't really matter. Obviously, they passed up on Sanders 6 times. They wanted nothing to do with him. Anyway, in the 7th round also, they picked up a defensive tackle in Biggers out of the ACC, and this guy Zeke Biggers is no joke. So being the Dolphins, got themselves allegedly a grade of C+ from this Gennaro Felice guy from NFL.com. And, of course, he has his favorite picks, but nobody gives a damn about that. Sleepers, oh, well, the running back's a sleeper. Okay, whatever. Carolina Panthers, he said, gets a C+ out of their picks. And, I mean, look, I'm not here trying to pick this one to pick that one or this grade to that grade. I just think this guy is way off. Way off. In the first round, 8th pick, a wideout out of Arizona, McMillan, this kid is really, really special. And, of course, round 2, they got a really good defensive end in Nick Scorton. And he's a big boy out of Texas A&M. And they got themselves yet another defensive end out of Ole Miss in the 3rd round. So they obviously needed a little bit of pass rush. But what I don't understand here is when you look at the pass rushers that are out there, if you bring in too many of these alleged edge rushers, which really they're just defensive ends, if you bring in too many of them, what are they doing? They're going to be blitzing the outside, and here comes the D and C gaps opening up. And look, folks, all they're doing is if you keep bringing pressure, you're creating holes in your defensive line that the running backs can go through. Now, I do like the fact they picked up Trevor Etienne out of Georgia in the 4th round. That was a really good pick. And they got themselves a good, strong safety, in Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. And outside of that, I don't know, the tight end out of Notre Dame isn't really the best pick. But Jimmy Horn Jr. out of Colorado is a solid pick. They picked him up in the 6th round, number 208. So I think they actually did better than that alleged C+ that this Felice guy. But my opinion doesn't matter. I'm only giving you what he's got. Oh, sleeper picks, favorite picks. Again, who cares? Moving on, in the grand scheme of things, it was who? It was the Green Bay Packers. That's right, Packer fans. I'm throwing it out there just because I can. I'm sorry. It's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Hey, sorry, I'm a Bears guy. It is what it is. And if we didn't have these kind of opinions, then what fun would the National Football League be in the first place? Think about that one, folks. And that is one hell of a way to look at it. So that Packers. They usually draft pretty good, though. So they get a grade of C+ from this character out of NFL.com. And actually, if you look at what they've done, out of 7 rounds, they got themselves 8 picks. And their 8 picks, they look pretty solid. Wide out, even though it was towards the bottom of the draft of the 1st round, I should say. Matthew Golden, a solid wideout from Texas. Very good pick. Big offensive tackle out of NC State, Anthony Belton. Solid pick there. And out of TCU, they've got themselves Williams as a really good wide receiver. And then, of course, a couple of defensive ends. And one out of Texas, one out of Oak State. They're kind of sticking with Texas football, apparently. And, of course, round 6, they got themselves Big Brinson out of Georgia, big defensive tackle there. This guy is a load. And then 2 7th-rounders, a corner, and an offensive guard. Now, they probably could have did better there, but overall, I think the Packers did a hell of a lot better than the C+ that this clown gives them. And now, moving on, of course, into, yes, his team, or better yet, his team, are the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions, they also had 7 picks. They just didn't have a 4th-rounder. But the Lions, actually, I think the Lions would, if there's this whole grading nonsense, I think the Lions actually didn't do so well at all. And so far, they're probably the biggest losers in the draft right now. And yeah, they filled a couple of gaps, a couple of offensive linemen, which is good in round 2 and round 5. But I don't necessarily believe that the balance of the picks are as strong. I mean, look, frankly, I would not take a defensive end out of the Mountain West Conference. They don't face the big boys like they do in the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC. They just don't. So I don't necessarily believe. Now, I'm sorry. I mean, look, I think Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State was a great pick. He should have won the Heisman Trophy. That was a solid pick for the Raiders. But nonetheless, when you're talking big defensive linemen and big tackles and and defensive ends and whatnot, you got to have big boys, and I mean biggins. I don't necessarily believe that a smaller, undersized guy is the right pick at basically the fifth pick for the Detroit Lions. I don't necessarily believe that was the right one, but I do like Dan Jackson out of Georgia as the safety. I don't believe a wide receiver in round 7 was the right pick either for Detroit. I think if Detroit was given a real grade by people that mattered in this whole draft thing, they probably would have gotten the closest thing to the worst grade out of all of them. Somehow this guy gives them a B- from, yes, NFL.com. Anyway, moving on. The Denver Broncos, they certainly did better than a B- according to this guy. With their cornerback, Barron out of Texas, and Harvey, the running back out of Central Florida, and Pat Bryant out of Illinois, that wideout. Boy, those guys did really well. They did a hell of a lot better than that B- grade. And in fact, Bo Nix got himself a little bit of protection in a good tight end, a big tight end, Caleb Lohner out of Utah. And they also got that Bryant will be a good blocking back as well to help out in the backfield. As well, let's face it, as a wideout, he's going to come back around on end arounds and jet sweeps and whatnot. But R.J. Harvey, the big running back out of Central Florida, is really going to help these guys out. I think they probably deserve at least a B in their draft. Now, Tampa Bay, they give them a B- as well, and they were 1 pick short. But they got the wideout Egbuka from Ohio State. And then they picked up in the second round, Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. And another corner. So they got 2 corners and 2 defensive ends. So it's obvious what Tampa was trying to do. They're trying to shore it up. And in fact, Larry, the defensive coordinator over there, this guy knows what he's doing. We had Larry on our show not too terribly long ago, and he was a good one. So Larry Foote knows what he's doing over there. And Tez Johnson, a very good wide receiver from Oregon, he was catching all those balls from Dylan Gabriel. Listen, Tampa got themselves a solid B or maybe even a B+. Anyway, back here on the circus in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. The only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for, again, our upcoming guests, our prior guests, record shows, and, of course, all of our partners that can be found on the partners page. And, of course, one of our favorites, of course, is Al's Number One Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. And folks, if you can't get over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And you could read about the history of the Italian beef, where it was created by Al's Number One Italian Beef way back in the early 1900s. And their first restaurant opened up in 1938. 1938. That's nuts, folks. 1938. We're going to give them a nice round of applause because it's one of our favorites. All right, welcome back to everybody. Radio, TV, you know who you are. And, of course, big welcome back to everybody that may be listening in, our friends over there on The Vibe 99.7 FM on your way from L.A. to Las Vegas or the other way around, or maybe you're driving through Arizona or whatnot, listening to the Highway Drive or even Highway Country. Big hello to our friends over there in Richard and Company, and we just want to make sure we say hello to you. All right, so back to these grades. I'm going to blow through these quickly because I think they're a bunch of crap. Anyway, the Pittsburgh Steelers loaded up on defense. They get a grade of B-, and I think largely that's due to they did pick up a quarterback in the 6th round, Will Howard from Ohio State. And they did that because they don't really know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron is going to end up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So at some point, they'll make that announcement. My best guess is it's probably going to be after May 15th when the schedule comes out for the NFL season. That makes the most sense. And then moving on, the Chargers, the Superchargers, got themselves a lot of picks. Tell you what, they had a couple of 5th rounders, a couple of 6th rounders, then one in each of the other rounds. Somehow they only get a grade of B-. And, of course, their first pick in the 1st round, Omarion Hampton, is a big boy, a big bruising back out of Carolina. And I have to tell you, folks, that was a really, really good pick. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, a very good wideout, catching balls from Jackson Dart. This kid is going to be a really good one, too, for the Superchargers. And, of course, Kyle Kennard of South Carolina, good defensive end. And another pick that I seem to like a little bit more is the safety out of Clemson, R.J. Mickens. So that, along with all the other picks, I think they got themselves one hell of a grade. The Washington, of course, I want to call them the Redskins, but they're not. They're now the Commanders, if you will. They only have 5 picks. But, boy, they sure got some mileage out of their 5 picks. They got themselves a good lineman, good offensive lineman to protect Jaden Daniels, big tackle. And, of course, on the left side, they got themselves a good corner, which they really needed. Got themselves another wideout in Jalen Lane out of Vatech. A good linebacker, Medrano out of UCLA. And, of course, they got themselves yet another running back out of Arizona. And so they really made the most out of the 5 picks they had. They deserve better than a B. Moving on, 49ers, boy, they had a bunch of picks. They had a couple of 3rds, a couple of 4s, a couple of 5ths, and 3 7ths. And how they only got a B, I'll never know. But they got themselves a good quarterback, the kid out of Indiana, Curtis Rourke, certainly better than a 7th rounder. And this kid probably should have gone in the 3rd round is my best guess. But going up to the top, they got a defensive end and Michael Williams, a big boy out of Georgia. That's a really good pick, and a defensive tackle in their next pick, and Alfred Collins out of Texas. So you could see the 49ers really went heavy on defense. They did pick up a couple of skill positions, but they were certainly defensive-minded. They get a grade of B. I don't really know about that. The Jags, Travis Hunter was the most, in my opinion, the most overrated pick out of everything. How the hell can he go number 2 overall when this guy, first of all, is not going to play both sides of the ball? Maybe he will for 1 season at the most. It's too demanding in the NFL. And honestly, he wasn't a leader in any category in college football, any skill category, whether it was interceptions or catches or targets or whatever the hell. Travis Hunter did not check any of those boxes. I think what a colossal waste of a pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, seriously, if you look up and down what the Jags did here, I got to tell you, I would give them an awful grade of possibly a D. But remember, I didn't play football either. I played baseball in my former life. But I have to say that the Jags burnt through 2 3rd-rounders, 2 4th-rounders, 2 6th-rounders, and 2 7th-rounders, and still had that number 2 overall pick. I think they did a horrific job. Moving on, it's the Texans. The Texans made the most of theirs. They really did a good job with theirs. They got themselves a really good mix of offensive players to help out C.J. Stroud, who really is turning into arguably the best quarterback that Ohio State's ever had in the National Football League. Moving on, Buffalo gets a grade of B, apparently, from this guy Gennaro Felice, who has never played 1 snap in the National Football League. I don't even think he played college football. But anyway, if you look at what they've done, well, you kind of scratch your head and say, all right, they lived seemingly in the SEC, but did they get really the bang for buck that they were looking for? I don't know. And it just seems to me that Buffalo, they addressed the positions they needed, but they probably could have made a flip-flop in the order in which they picked and picked some of these guys up further down the trough. Seems like they wasted some picks, but what do I know? The Chiefs get a grade of B with their, well, they had 7 picks. They did have all 7 picks. It's just they had 2 3rd-rounders, so it looked a little confusing. They had no 6th round. So it looked like the Chiefs did pretty good, and they got themselves some extra protection for Patrick Mahomes with a big offensive tackle out of Ohio State. But nonetheless, they got a solid grade of a B+, or a B anyway. I'd give them a B+. The Ravens, boy, they had a bunch of picks. They had a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then 6th round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks in the 6th round and a 7th. And they certainly made the most of it. Out of all the 6th-round picks, of course, they took a kicker, a place kicker with one of those because of the Justin Tucker situation. They really made the most. The Eagles get themselves allegedly a B+ with the plethora of picks they had. They were bottom heavy. They had a 1st, 2nd, 4th, and then 3 in the 5th, and then 4 in the 6th. I guess they actually did pretty well with their drafting. Moving on, the Cardinals, I'm absolutely confused with what the Cardinals are doing, but it doesn't matter again what I think, but it just seems to me like the Cardinals are going in a very unusual direction. We'll leave it like that. The Cowboys, there's another real head-scratcher. If you look at what they did, yes, their first pick in a big offensive guard is good, but everybody else, I don't know. I mean, how the hell do you pick up a running back in the 5th round and then a running back again in the 7th round? You think if you're going to take a running back, you would take it maybe in round 1, 2, possibly even 3? I don't know. It just seems like, boy, they really confused a lot of people there, and they deserve a grade really, really low. Now, somehow the Raiders, with all of their picks, look, I'm going to give them a high grade, me personally, if I'm giving a grade, only because Ashton Jeanty. Everybody else are highly questionable, with the exception of the quarterback picking up in the 6th round in Cam Miller out of North Dakota State. This kid is legit. He is good. So they got themselves a couple of good picks, but man, they had about 10 picks here. Let's see, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 picks. 2 out of 11, I guess that's not so good. How they got an A, I'll never know. The New York Football Giants, wow, a real head-scratcher, a terrible head-scratcher, except for Scadaboo out of Arizona State. That kid is legit. He is the real deal. Abdul Carter, I don't believe that. I mean, look, if you're already loaded up on defensive ends, why the hell would you go do that and go get a defensive end? Now, Jackson Dart was probably the only thing that really saved them in this draft outside of Scadaboo. But what a conundrum that the New York Football Giants have created. They've got all these defensive ends. What do? They go and take, with the first round, number 3 overall, the kid out of Penn State. You would have think if they would have taken him, that maybe they would have dealt him off for something else. Now, that would have made a little bit of sense for maybe something else that they need. I don't know. Maybe something to protect Jackson Dart. They waited till the 5th round to find somebody to protect their new quarterback. Now, Dart's a big kid, but you got to protect this guy. He's in for a very, very long season. And remember, the Giants are pass rush heavy in a rushing heavy division. I mean, that itself doesn't seem to lend itself to logic, but that's New York football for you. Now, the Cleveland Browns, there's another real head scratcher. Why in the world would they take 2 quarterbacks? So, of course, they got Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, a very good pick, and they took Sanders in the 5th round. They should have let him go to Mr. Irrelevant. That would have been exactly what I would have done in the 5th draft. But then again, that's not me. Teach that boy a lesson, teach his family a lesson. But I don't think the Browns did that good outside of Dylan Gabriel. They don't get an A. No way. The Titans, Cam Ward, number 1. He is not the number 1 pick in this draft. What a colossal waste. This is the kid, in my opinion, that if you're out there on the playground and he doesn't like the way the game's going, he'll go ahead and take the ball and go home. That's right. And that's how you have to look at him, because his behavior, even last season, that's the same kind of crap that he pulled as I see it. Anyway, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play here. You know what, buddy? Go pound sand. Moving on. It is the New York Jets, the airplanes, and really the New Jersey Jets. So they got themselves a big offensive tackle to protect no quarterback. A tight end, a corner out of Florida State, when Thomas is a pretty good one. Then they got a decent wide receiver out of Georgia. But that's basically it. Those guys, boy, they really sunk their own battleship. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. Of course, the Bears always get a nice round of applause. And the Bears did very well in their draft, getting Loveland, a big tight end out of Michigan in the 1st round. 2nd round, Luther Bird in the 3rd out of Missouri, big wideout. 2nd round, also Ozzie Trapillo. And that is a very large offensive tackle out of BC, a defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. You know, Texas A&M, that seems like that's all they put into the league. Nonetheless, Shamar Turner, a very, very good one, a big boy. Also a linebacker. This guy is big, this Hypolite, the 2nd. And they finally got themselves another corner in Frazier. That's a good one out of UTSA. And, of course, another guard in Luke Newman out of Michigan State. And, of course, Monagai, a running back out of Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. Probably the best name in college football as far as a mascot. The Bears get a bona fide A, no question. I don't care who you're talking about with that one. Seattle got themselves the same thing. They did really well, excuse me, by getting themselves a big offensive guard out of North Dakota State as their first pick, number 18 overall. And if you look up and down what they've done, they went and picked up Jalen Muro, a very good pick out of Alabama, big boy. And so they got themselves a good wideout from Colorado State, another good offensive guard, another offensive tackle. Seattle did really, really well in the draft. And, of course, our final team is the New England Patriots. They apparently got the best grade out of all of these teams, which, honestly, I don't really see it. Travion Henderson in the 2nd round of Ohio State. But they got themselves a good offensive tackle in Will Campbell out of LSU and a good wideout for Washington State. But outside this, if you look up and down that list, they didn't do that well. I would give it to Seattle or I'd give it to Chicago. Either way, those are your grades. And when you look at these, this is by that character that I mentioned at the top of the 2nd segment, and that was by this Gennaro Felice. Again, as I see it, he didn't play in the NFL, he didn't play college football. Who the hell is he in giving these alleged grades? Is that all the NFL.com has to offer? Apparently it is. We're going to go ahead and exit that page, and guess what, folks? We're going to exit the show. That's going to do it for today's show. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.